Welcome back. So did anyone have the chance to experience any welcoming practice during our break? Yeah, I did.
We tried talking politics, but we agreed.
Good. Any questions that kind of came up?
So, Mary, I want to follow up on Robert's comment. And so my question to you, it has to do with Robert talked about a cruel person. And what does a person do who is in an abusive relationship? Let's just make an example of a man and a wife and a husband, and he beats her. So how does welcoming prayer work in that context?
Nestor, that's a great question, because my fear in sharing it is that people think this is a passive practice. That you sit back and take. You don't. Actually, it's an incredibly courageous practice. The difference is I don't have to fight back out of violence. There's a saying in some of the rooms that I love particularly. It's say what you mean what you say, but don't say it meanly. I did a lot of work with parenting, and what I realized was there was this whole stage where the women were coming in and the kids weren't listening, and the dad would say something and the kids stopped. But you know what? He meant it and she didn't. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if you don't stop that right now, well, she was probably also busy cooking dinner and all of that, so whatever she threatened didn't happen. Where he said, stop it now, and he meant it, and if you didn't, you got whatever. Welcoming is never to be a vehicle to, in any sense, enable or allow abusive situations. What I have found with those is when we really claim our power and say, stop it, it stops. Welcoming is incredibly enabling of the power to claim no. Your no is probably the most underused word in your vocabulary. And it's critical. How can my yes have any merit if I don't have a no? And at least for women, I'll speak from my experience, Christian women have a double whammy, don't we? Oh God, you're not only supposed to not say no, but you're supposed to be happy about it. You know? So try it with a smile. The truth is, if we can say no, then we can truly say yes, and it means something. So in that situation, first of all, if somebody's hitting you, get the hell out. And I hope there's a lot of good resources for that here, and safe houses and all the rest. But even if it's just emotional abuse or somebody in your life is, and quite honestly, lots of times it's adult children that are abusive. Or the elderly, you know, there's lots of different types. But when I'm really true to the God within, I'm not meant to be abused, and you're not meant to be abused. And you say enough. It's very empowering. But let's go back to that, sorry, I moved my books, that wonderful little quote, because this is a very big quote. On the brink of each new breakthrough, there is a crisis of trust and of love. Let me read that again. Surrender to the unknown marks the great transitions of the spiritual journey. So to think that it's going to feel comfortable is the mistake. Remember when you were a kid and you did some of those things, like you fell backwards with your arms and you hoped that you'd be caught by your friends because you were practicing? That's what it feels like. The inner experience is that it's not trustable, that you're not loved, and that it's not redeemed. But that's just a feeling. What you're being asked to do is stand in the truth of what you claim, that you are loved, you claim your core of basic goodness, and you claim God's power in the situation. But your experience might be that this is untrustable, unlovable, and very scary. But you say enough or no, or stop. And you may not have any of the answers around it. That's what I mean. Welcoming takes me by surprise because, okay, follow me. It's really very clear, and I hope I can communicate it clearly. What we're dealing with is unconscious material. My brain and your brain probably says that if I read the right book or go to the right lecture or see the right DVD, I'll figure it out. That's not how unconsciousness is healed. It's through that breakthrough of insight and doing something different. So it's the first time that you claim your voice. It's the first time you step out in your truth. And it feels scary and uncertain because it's new territory. You know, you've all heard in the rooms we say a lot, no change, no change. Or Einstein's definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. But we want to keep doing the same thing because we're comfortable with it, folks. Isn't that it? Yeah. But I like this. I might be miserable, but I like it. It's my misery. I know the boundaries. I know what happens. I could tell you what'll happen tomorrow. When you start to step out, you don't know. The cloud of unknowing. What's being unwrapped are all those things we thought we knew. Even what we think we know about God gets undone. Thank God, because a lot of the stuff we have about God needs to get undone. But it's not meant to be abusive or to allow you to put up with abuse. But you don't have to react in the violence. Under the false self, when I react, all I get back is the reaction, don't you? If you feel, you know, have you ever walked into a room where two people were arguing, but they heard you coming, so they were quiet? You feel it, don't you? Yep. Boy, you could, what do you say? You could cut the tension in the air. We think that we're so smart we can pull it over on anybody. We can't. Our truth we transmit. It really comes out of our pores at a cellular level. You know, this is why welcoming really helps, because you work with the body. In communications theory, if you have something big to say, you want to have a talk with somebody you love, or you're concerned about someone, or it can be good, bad, or indifferent, but you really, what do we usually spend all our time on?
Thinking about what we're going to say.
What are we going to say, right? What are we going to say? In communications theory, out of 100% of what you're going to communicate, what percentage do the words account for?
5, maybe.
7. Isn't that something? Have you ever had it where somebody who loves you says something really bad, but you knew what they meant? Because it's not about the words. It's 30, I'll forget it right now, but it's like 33%, let's say, is tone of voice, but 60+% is body language. Has anybody ever apologized to you? I'm sorry. You know how you say it to little kids, like go up and tell them they're sorry. And they walk up like this, and they stand there and they say, I'm sorry. And they're not sorry a bit. And we have it as adults, don't we? We couch it a little better. Well, I'm very sorry that you thought I was obnoxious. Why'd you think that? You know what I mean? We do that because it's the words. What I love about welcoming and centering prayer, because centering prayer is bringing it up, is it starts to change the real stuff. That you communicate and I communicate without even knowing we're communicating it. Thomas Keating says, if we're in divine union, you don't even have to open your mouth. Walking down the street, you're transmitting divine love into the world. You become the vehicle and the vessel of it. But it's not about you. So you don't have to get all, I have to have these great words, or how am I going to convert so-and-so, and I'm sure some of you came here today and thought, I know who should be here. Didn't you? Didn't you have that? Like, how am I going to get so-and-so to do this practice? It's not about them. It's being it ourselves and allowing God to work in us, that we give others permission to be themselves and let God work in them. This very tiny little practice that starts with being real enough to experience your own experience in the moment. To welcome it, knowing that God is always present and active. De Caussade says God is always present and active in every circumstance in the most faultless ways. He says at the end of it, the realization that God is active in all that happens in every moment is the deepest kind of knowledge we can have in this life of things with God. He goes on to talk about it, and what I love is if you read Eckhart Tolle today, he uses the same words. And the one word they talk about, both use, from the 17th century and from the 20th and 21st century, is at ease. So here's my litmus test for myself. How much of your day do you consider yourself at ease? It's scary to me. To be at ease in the moment with God, no matter what you're doing. Remember Mary and Martha? Martha lost herself in the moment. So it's coming back to being at ease in whatever the situation is calling on you for. De Caussade says, it is peace, joy, love, and a feeling of being at ease with God, who is seen and known, or rather, believed to be present and always active in the most faultless way in every happening. Really difficult stuff happens. Mary Mrozowski used to say, it's never about what's happening, it's about what we're doing with what's happening. Does what's happening bring you closer to God, to the living realization that God is present and active and alive now, here? Or does it take us away and into our own preconceived ideas of how it should be or shouldn't be? So that's how welcoming is at the hands of bringing us closer.